Hi, Nicole here with a super delicious and healthy cookie recipe. It is a Snickerdoodle cookie-like recipe that you can easily make at home. It is gluten-free, it is low carb, and it is keto friendly. Yay! Who does not want a tasty cookie recipe, especially with the holidays coming up? And also it's a cookie recipe that you can feel good about because you're putting some really healthy ingredients into your body versus other types of cookies, and you will help you feel better physically, mentally, and emotionally. And again, it tastes good. So here on my channel, I'm focused on ways that you can eat well so that you can be well, which allows you to live well, aka live new. If you would like to hear more about recipes or other topics that help you lead a healthy, balanced life, please subscribe below and hit that bell icon so that you're notified when I upload new videos. Let's get baking. Okay, of course, first to get baking, we got to review the ingredients that we're going to be using as part of this recipe. First off, instead of flour, we're going to be using egg thins or crepini egg thins. I thought of the idea of why not grind these up in a food processor and make them into what's going to be our flour for the cookies. We also are going to be using Swerve, which is a sugar replacement. This is a good sugar replacement because it does not affect your blood sugar levels, so its carbohydrates are considered non-impact. We also have some cinnamon for flavor, cream of tartar to help with the lifting of the cookies, some baking soda, some salt. We have vanilla. And instead of using butter, which a lot of cookies call for, we're going to be using some unsweetened applesauce. So saving us on the saturated fats and making this also dairy-free. And we have an egg here that we're also going to be using. So I'm going to go through next how much of each we're going to be putting into this recipe. Okay, now we're going to talk about the amount of the ingredients that you need for this recipe, the specifics, and I will include a link to the recipe below so you can have this on reference later. But you basically need 3 bowls that we're going to be setting up here, and the first one is going to be with the ingredients that we're going to be using to coat the cookie balls in before we bake them. And that is a combination of the Swerve and cinnamon. So with that, the Swerve in this bowl, you're gonna do a 1/3 cup of this and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I already took the liberty of measuring that, putting it in here. You just whisk it together so you get this nice little mixture. So we'll have that on hand. The next is our dry ingredients. Now, again, in lieu of flour, we're gonna be using egg crepini thins. You can find these in the grocery store. They're typically right next to the eggs. So we're not going to use traditional flour, but this instead. And the way to get it to be flour-like is to either use a food processor or a blender. In this case, I'm using a food processor. I have 1.5 packets of this in here. We're going to process it together and measure out 3 cups. Perfect. So just take this off here. We're going to measure out 3 cups full, which I actually already know that this is exactly 3 cups full because I've done this recipe before. And 1.5 of those packets equals the right amount. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and dump this whole thing in here. Okay. Great. Now in with this is also going to go a majority of the other ingredients. And that is going to be 2 teaspoons of the cream of tartar, and I'm using 1/2 teaspoon here so it fits in there. So we're going to be doing 4 of 1/2 teaspoons. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to be doing 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So I'll be doing 2 since I'm using 1/2 teaspoon. And 1, 2. We are going to be doing 1.5 teaspoons full of cinnamon. So I'll be doing this. 1, 2, 3 equals 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. And last that goes in this bowl is going to be 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So I have that here. Dump this in. The other benefit of this recipe is you don't need a lot of equipment, so you don't need like a fancy mixer or anything like that. You just need the whisking tool here. So we're going to whisk all this together. Make sure it's mixed nice and mixed well together. And then into our final bowl here are going to be the wet ingredients. In this case, it's going to be 8 ounces of applesauce. So I already have dumped 1 in, so we have 4 ounces of applesauce in there. I'm going to dump the other cup in here. Of course, you can have a big jar. I have these little snack pack size because my son takes to school all the time. So we empty that in here. Along with that is going to be 1 egg. And actually, before we put the egg in there, we are going to go ahead and put the Swerve, which is 1 more cup of this in here. And I'm going to take a spoon and measure that out so I don't get any egg crepini into this here. So measuring out 1 cup of the Swerve easily here. And that in there. I'm going to dump in this. I'm going to go ahead and whisk together the sugar and the applesauce here real. Okay, so we have this here, whisking, whisking, whisking. You can see what it looks like, just whisking it together so it blends well. It smells good. So now we have sweet applesauce. There's unsweetened applesauce before, mixed with the sugar. Okay. Have this mixed together. I'm going to add in 1 egg. This is a large brown egg. Put that in there. Along with the final ingredient is 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So there's 1 and 2. And I'm going to mix that together. Oh, you know what? We forgot 1/3 cup of sugar. It was 1 cup and 1/3. So that I'm gonna just go ahead and put in there as well. And I'm gonna go mixing, mixing, mixing. Okay, so this is mixed well here. Once all the wet ingredients are mixed well together, then we start adding in the dry ingredients. Again, that's mainly our crepini and our spices. So I slowly am just gonna dump in a little bit at a time, make sure I get that mixed in. I guess technically you could be using a mixer for this, but I try to go simpler, and I actually don't have a mixer, I only have a hand mixer. So the whisking tool is what I found that works just as easy, and it's less mess to clean up, or less things to put in there. So now I've mixed all of it together. You can see that the dough is really starting to form up here. Okay, so a few more seconds here. We're going to be making sure this is all mixed together, and then we're gonna making little, scooping out little tablespoon size balls of these and putting them onto a parchment lined baking sheet. Now the last step is going to be, we're gonna bake for 8 to 10 minutes on 375. I already have the oven preheated. So with this, I'm gonna show you next how you roll them and put them on the baking sheet. Okay, now to put the cookies on the baking sheet, you just take a teaspoon size, you could use a regular spoon, and you're just gonna plop them onto this baking sheet that is covered. I have it covered with parchment paper. And we're just gonna do a bunch of these. Okay, so we have those there. Now, don't forget, we have the coating part. So with that, I'm just gonna take a little spoon and I'm gonna put over the cinnamon and the sugar combination. And again, this is kind of at your discretion how much you wanna use. You could use a smaller spoon, you could use your fingers to sprinkle on, just coating it with a very nice, generous heaping spoonful. So we're going to bake 8 to 10 minutes, depending on how your oven heats. You'll want to set the timer for 8, check on them, and then they are going to be on the wire rack to cool afterward. But here's where they are, they're ready for the oven. I'm going to stick them in there, and I'm going to set the timer again for 8 minutes. Okay, 8 minutes has passed, we're going to check. You can hear my alarm going off. We pause for a moment there. It is going off. It's been 8 minutes. We're gonna check the cookies. Looks like they need about 2 more minutes. I'll reset the timer now. Okay, timer's gone off. Cookies are finished. They smell delicious. I'm gonna pull them out. We're gonna cool them on the rack and we're gonna then enjoy. So let me grab these here. And they look good. I'll scoop them up here, put them again on the cooling rack. So you just have to monitor based upon your oven temperature, 8 to 10 minutes. And a little hot here. Woo! Don't burn yourself. So put them out there. It's okay if they change shape a little bit. They taste just the same. So they definitely want that cooling period. Now let me just show you what they look like when they're nice and cool. Just like this. So I hope you enjoy these, share with others, and check me out on my next video.